Hey guys, Dilla304 here. Today I've come to bring you a review of the Samsung Galaxy S5 Active. Is it good? Let's find out. So first thing I have to talk about is build quality. And right off the bat, I can say that this phone feels significantly more solid than the standard Galaxy S5. Whether it be because of the thicker plastic they're using for the external construction of this phone, and the smaller, less flimsy back cover, and also these bumpers on the top and bottom definitely have a lot to do with how this phone feels in the hand. The buttons are bigger, it has this ridged pattern, the phone doesn't creak at all, I mean a little bit, but the phone feels a lot more solid compared to the regular Galaxy S5. This is a dummy model, so don't worry about me breaking it, but the Galaxy S5 Active just feels overall like a lot better built phone than the regular Galaxy S5. As you can see, we have hardware home buttons down here. We have this rigid looking construction with the reinforced corners. We have the camo green paint job, which I'm really not that much of a fan of. But up here we have the little rivets to make it look more industrial. And yeah, basically this phone definitely a lot better built than the standard Samsung Galaxy S5. So quick external tour. Obviously on the front up here we have our notification LED, we have the Samsung logo and the earpiece right above it. There we have our proximity and ambient light sensors, and there we have our front facing camera. Right here we have the same screen that's found on the Samsung Galaxy S5, a 5.1 inch 1080p display. It's AMOLED. So it looks exactly the same as the standard S5's display. Down here we actually have hardware buttons, including the notification, the app switcher. That's the word I was looking for. Home button and the back button, those are all hardware buttons, which is actually kind of nice, and they all line up and look good. So there you go. On the left we have the active key, which I'll get into in a bit. It isn't actually as useful as you would think it is, so yeah, I'll talk about that later. And then we have these larger volume and power buttons. They are slightly larger compared to the standard Galaxy S5, as you can see here, so that's a nice touch. Down here we have our micro USB, which is covered. Again, this thing is waterproof or water resistant, so it has to have a cover there, which is kind of annoying, but yeah. There we have a microphone. On the top we have our headphone jack, infrared blaster, and I assume that's another microphone, so yeah. On the back we have our 16 megapixel camera, which looks a little more industrial, let's say. And then down there we have our flash heart rate sensor, and yeah, that's that. AT&T logo, Galaxy S5 Active. Here we have our speaker, which is actually, well, I can't take the back off that dummy S5, but the speaker on the Galaxy S5 Active is actually bigger and subsequently louder, so that is nice. So that's it for the external tour. So let's talk hardware here. We have a 2.5 gigahertz quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 with the Adreno 330 GPU and 2 gigabytes of RAM. We have, as previously mentioned, the 5.1 inch 1080p display. It has 16 gigabytes of built-in storage, which is expandable up to 128 gigabytes via a micro SD card. We have a 2 megapixel front-facing camera and a 16 megapixel rear-facing camera. And I'll be honest with you, the front-facing camera on this thing is garbage, but we'll get to that later. So there you are. And also this thing is, of course, IP67 certified. So it's water resistant up to 1 meter and for 30 minutes. So that is cool. So there you are. So of course this phone is running Android 5.0 Lollipop. This is the AT&T model. Of course the Galaxy S5 Active is an AT&T exclusive. So there you are. We're running the 5.0 Lollipop update. So yeah, performance is alright. Generally it's pretty good. It's pretty fast in most scenarios. Although I have just encountered, the usual Samsung lag that plagues pretty much every phone Samsung makes. Just the little things that take too long. So I pushed that button, and you see that like second or so I had to wait for that to come up. Here, I'll do that again. See, just a little bit of lag there that I don't like, and then that's found throughout the OS and will get slightly worse with time. So that kind of sucks. I also found that the apps that you're not using that just fall in the background don't always cache, and Samsung is using quite a resource, or quite an aggressive RAM management strategy. So basically your apps are not going to be cached for very long. They're going to have to reload them every time, which kind of stinks. So yeah, other than that though, performance is pretty good. You can see we have the Lollipop theme here. Go ahead and pull it up real quick. So you can see we're running Android 5.0, and it's the GM870A. So there you go, Lollipop. And yeah, I'm not going to go into like a ton of features in the OS because the Galaxy S5 has been out for quite a while now, so if you want to do that, go look at some other video or something, because yeah, everyone's kind of seen that already. Other than that though, the software is alright. Of course it's running TouchWiz just like everything else, and with the features that the cons that I just previously mentioned. Some people don't like the way it looks. I don't really mind. I think it looks just fine, but yeah, it's just the little micro lag that's not very favorable. So let's talk about this active key that I mentioned previously. This thing is supposed to be just an extra hardware button that you can use to launch certain applications. Well, yeah, you can program it to launch pretty much whatever you want, but okay, so I'm going to you can long press it and it'll, let's say, open the camera, because that's what I have it set to. That's nice. And I have the short press set to messaging, so I'm not going to open that. But yeah, this is great, but guess what? When your phone is locked, you can't activate it. Sorry, I hit the lock button. If you push on this thing, it's not going to do anything. It might wake up the phone, as you can see here, but you cannot activate it while the phone is locked. So what is the point of this button if, might as well just use this camera shortcut down here, whatever, unlock the phone. Like, this button is useless when the phone is locked. You can't do anything with it. So Samsung, what the hell? Just make it available to use while the phone is locked. And the Galaxy S6 Active actually does that. So there you go. But yeah, that's just a thing to keep in mind with the active button on the Galaxy S5 Active. So let's talk cameras, and this is actually not going to be as straightforward as you would expect. It has a 2 megapixel front camera and a 16 megapixel rear camera. Let's start with the front one, because that's the crappy one. Seriously, this front camera is one of the worst cell phone cameras I have ever seen or used in my life. The front camera sucks balls on this phone. Every picture you take, even in adequate lighting, is pretty darn grainy, and especially in low light, it starts looking like crap. So yeah, Samsung, your front camera on this phone sucks, and that's with all Galaxy S5s, not just this one. So yeah, front camera is garbage. So it may as well not even be there. It's so bad, in my opinion. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. The rear camera is a different story. It's a 16 megapixel rear camera, obviously. And it's quite a good camera. Colors are nice, and pictures are sharp when you can get them that way. What do I mean by that? Well, this camera, for some reason, has no picture stabilization, not even digital anymore. They removed the picture stabilization in the Lollipop update. So yeah, unless you're holding this phone extremely steady, you're not going to get a clear shot. And it's really, really annoying, because you can use this active key to take you can use the active key to take photos. But if you do that, especially with one hand, if you're pushing on the phone, you're going to move it a little bit while you're pushing the button. So you're not going to get a clear shot. So you have to hold the phone really steady and push the shutter button. That blows. Come on, Samsung. So yeah, the front camera's bad, terrible. The rear camera is good, but getting a clear shot is very difficult. It's not just one of those things where you can just, take a picture willy-nilly and expect it to come out nice. So keep that in mind. So let's talk battery life. The battery life on this thing ranges from not so great to meh. So, it's anywhere in between. Sometimes I only get about an hour and a half of screen on time, but that's when I generally have a lot of standby time because I'm not using the phone so much. The most I've ever gotten on this phone is about 5 hours screen on time, which is good. It's not bad. Other phones are much worse, but yeah, the battery life I would say is overall good. The standby time is decent. If you leave it off the charger overnight, it'll probably lose between 10 and 15%. So I charge this phone every night. That kind of stinks, but you know, that's kind of how all Android phones are, unfortunately. So the battery life is good, let's say. So that kind of wraps up my review. What do I think of this phone? Should you buy it? Well, only if you can't afford the Galaxy S6 Active, because the S6 Active solves a lot of the issues. Well, pretty much the only issues I have with this thing. The S6 Active, you can use the active key while the phone is locked. The front camera is better. Obviously, it's a Galaxy S6, so they upgraded the front camera to, I believe, a 5 megapixel, and it's wide angle, and it's actually a good sensor. So, front camera is actually good. And the rear camera on the Galaxy S6 and the S6 Active has optical image stabilization. So, there you go. If you can, get the Galaxy S6 Active, because that solves all of the problems that I have with this. Well, except for the TouchWiz lag, but that's a Samsung thing. So there you go. That's kind of my opinion on the phone. It's a good phone. I've had better phones. I've had much worse. So there you are. That is my review of the Samsung Galaxy S5 Active. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.